Traveling the Vortex.
We've joined the Doctor as he travels the Vortex and arrive at episode number 346, where we ring the changes and offer flower arranging lessons. I'm Keith.
I'm Shaun.
I'm Glenn.
How are you guys?
Tired.
I'm getting better.
So you've been sick?
I haven't been well, but I am getting better. So, I've just had this chest cold and cough for all week. So
That sucks.
yeah, I was afraid I was getting a flu since that's kind of now surfacing here in Topeka. And I got a little worried on Tuesday because I was feeling pretty bad, and I'm pretty sure I had a fever. And Wednesday the fever went away and all the chills and everything, and it just still lingered with the cough. So
You just keep it right over there on your side of the room,
Yeah,
mister.
absolutely.
I do not
trying
want
to cough over to you, but it's not. I can't seem to get close enough. Here,
The fan's blowing the wrong direction.
move a little closer here, Shaun.
No, thank you.
Did you guys do anything fun this week? Is that why you're so tired, Shaun?
Partially. We did lots and lots of stuff. We had an emergency Tuesday.
An emergency Tuesday?
An emergency Tuesday. Sometimes you just need an extra day of the week, so you throw an emergency Tuesday on the schedule. And Mel called me frantic because her fish tank had sprung a leak.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I came running home from work, and it's water everywhere, carpet soggy, and of course it's fish water, so it's like, and she's got towels and pans and buckets and fish, and stuff is everywhere. So we went running out to look at tanks, and she was so beside herself she couldn't think straight and decide, do I buy another tank or not? I have a 55-gallon now. Should I get a smaller one, or do I get the same size one? Can't really afford it. It is on. And the woman that we talked to at what's the one on 21st?
Petco?
Petco. Or is that PetSmart?
PetSmart.
There is no Pets Co anymore. No, there's no Pets. Yeah,
Oh,
there's
there's
no
both.
Petco anymore.
Oh, we still have
Yeah,
both.
there is.
One
Where's
was
the other
on
one?
one's on Wanamaker,
One's down from Vintage Stock.
down from Vintage Stock, and then one's
No.
on 21st Street.
No,
Yes, I've been in both of them this week. Trust me, they're there.
I thought that was something else now.
No, it's still
The
Pet
place
Store.
next to Petco is now like something
Ross
different.
Dress for that last.
Yeah,
that's
that's
right.
that's
yeah.
what used to be
Yeah.
Office Depot.
That's what I was thinking of.
But anyway, whichever one is on 21st Street, the woman there was very, very polite and helpful, and said, "Look, here's the bottom line. Take a day, think about it." She says, "You're not in a mindset to deal with it right now." She says, "Go get yourself a Styrolite container, put the fish in it, put it on the floor. They won't be happy about it, but they'll survive a day or two until you can kind of figure out what you want to do." So that's what we did. We went home and finished cleaning out the tank, put the fish in Tupperware. Big old Tupperware bowl. And then Mel had a party that night, so she took off. And I go downstairs and I hear plink, plink, plink. And of course, it had soaked, so much water had soaked through on the floor that it was coming through the floor joists. So, of course, I had to pull all the carpets up in the basement and deal with all that stuff. And it's like, it's not even, it's a fish tank, but here I am. Got the fans out, drying the concrete floors so that we don't have any mildew or anything. Got all that taken care of, and I still hear plink, plink, plink. And I'm like, what is it? So I go over and look, and there's this water all over the top of the water heater. And I look up, and I'm figuring out spatial recognition and the, ceiling here, this over here. What's this, the living room? Okay, what? That's where the fish are living now. In their Styrolite container. It had a hole in it. And was leaking all over the floor. So we put another Tupperware container under that Tupperware container to contain the water. And then had to keep adding because, of course, the water kept wanting to equalize in both, double-walled holes. But yeah, so Mel came home and we went out the next day and she opted to buy another tank and actually went larger because the other thing that you find out is once you've had a certain size and you think about going smaller, it's a bad idea because it's actually more work.
Oh, really?
Big tanks, once you have it set, you can pretty much ignore it. You just feed the fish and clean it every now and then and you're good. With a smaller tank, you got to clean it all the time. Because the fish dirty it up. There is no Aqua Scum 4000, regardless of what Finding Nemo will tell you. And So she actually went with a 65-gallon tank. So it was 10 gallons more, but they had a great deal, and she got the tank and the stand and a filter and a heater and, kind of the whole shebang. Because that was the other thing, is she thought, well, I'd kind of like to use my existing stand. If I don't have to buy one, that'd be great.
Yeah.
But it's wood, and it soaked up so much of that 55 gallons. And we kind of put it outside to dry, and then, let's see, yeah, it was like this twisted...
Oh.
It was like a Mobius strip. It was just this big old pretzel knot of wood. I was like, okay, never mind. We're getting a new stand, too. And then we had to prep it and fill it back up and put the fish back in that one. And it was like, okay. So that was kind of the beginning part of the week.
Wow.
Which is an ordeal.
Yeah, sounds like it.
For being such a gentle, peaceful pet, when things go wrong and you have an emergency Tuesday.
Wow.
But we ended the week on a good note. She got a notification. Somebody had let her know about this contest that was going on, and so she entered for it. And she wound up winning. And she won a free carload pass to the Boulevard Drive-In in Kansas City.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So she was like, yeah. And what's of course, the pass is only good this weekend, naturally. So, okay, I guess we're going to Kansas City. So I was like, what's playing? And they were doing a triple feature all 3 nights.
Oh, wow.
And it was Despicable Me 3, followed by Wonder Woman, followed by Spider-Man Homecoming. I was like, well, I've seen 2 of those. I haven't seen Despicable Me 3 yet, but we've got Kat this weekend. So, okay. So we went running around. We dropped Shy off at Jesse's, and we took off for Kansas City, and went and saw Despicable Me 3.
Is that a drive-in you'd been to before?
I'd never been. In fact, we were talking, and she asked me when the last time I'd been to the drive-in was, and I stopped. I know that I saw something at the Cloverleaf at some point in time later, but I cannot, for the life of me, remember what or when that may have been. So the only one I could definitively say is Star Wars. I saw Star Wars at the Chief Drive-In in like 77, 78 when it came out in first release. Other than that, I can't tell you. Huh. So it's been a long while. And we pulled up, and I asked the guys, like, I've not been to your drive-in. Is there, a particular parking area that's better than others? And he goes, inside the gate.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks. Drove in. And we found, a pretty well-centered spot, and they had the playground up front. Katrina went and played until the movie started, and had really good popcorn and funnel cakes. And
nice.
Despicable Me 3 was pretty good. It's not... it's more of the kind of threads of the second one with the supervillain and the secret agent kind of stuff, and a little bit less of the family ties, which is interesting since Groot has a brother in this one. If they didn't make a 4th one, I'm fine. This is kind of the end of where I think this needs to go. But it was good. And then we watched Wonder Woman, which is pretty much just as good the second time around. Although being at a drive-in, the dark scenes are really dark. Even being outside, it was dark. And I mean, color-wise, not tonally.
Yeah, visually.
And Katrina was kind of starting to get antsy. Anything that Wonder Woman, any of the scenes that Wonder Woman was on screen being Wonder Woman, she was riveted. And I heard her audibly gasp in that one bit on Themyscira at the beginning where the Amazon battle starts and that one person has that thing happen to them. It was like, I'm being coy because I don't want to spoil something, but she audibly gasped.
That's good.
But then anytime Wonder Woman was on screen in a suit, she could have cared less. She was antsy, wandering around, and, just...
At least that's the atmosphere to have an antsy kid during a movie.
Yeah. Well, until she had to go to the bathroom. So, okay, so I took her to the bathroom, and then I realized I had to go. There's this line. It's a women's bathroom with a line. It's like, all right, you stand here in this line. I'm going to go to the bathroom. I'll be back, because I'll beat you out. I know that I will. But I'll meet you right here. Don't wander off. I will meet you right here. She says, okay. So I come back, and she's not there. The line has disappeared. I said, oh, she's still in there. And I wait a few minutes, and then I call Mel. I was like, Kat's not back with you yet, is she? She goes, no. I was like, okay, she must still be in the bathroom. I figured that, I'd beat her out. And as soon as I hang up on the phone, they come across the PA system. We have a lost child at the concession stand. I think it's John as her pop-pop. I was like, oh, God. Her name is Katrina. Yeah, that's mine. Excuse me, pardon me. No, you can't have your hot dog right now. I need to get my kid. So then my phone starts ringing, and it's Mel. Do you have her? And she yes, relax. We were 5 feet apart from each other. She was on that side of the wall. That's the only difference. So, But by the time Wonder Woman ended, it was like 12:15. It was like, there's no way I'm sticking around for Spider-Man. I'm tired. So then I had work today. So it was a long, eventful week.
Sounds like it.
And he was sick. What did you do?
We watched...
Oh, we had the birthday party too. But
yeah. A friend of ours, boy, is turned 1, so we went to his birthday party.
My mom keeps going, so how was it? How was what? It's that party. You went to that party this weekend, right? It's like, it was a birthday party for a 1-year-old, Mom. What do you want
He sat there where his parents opened the presents.
They opened presents. We had ice cream. We went home. That was pretty much it. What do you... It's not like we went to the theater. It's like we didn't go skydiving. It was a party for a 1-year-old. But sorry, I didn't mean to. Good.
We watched 11/22/63. That's
The
what we did
whole
this week.
thing?
We finished it.
Oh, and?
It's only 8 episodes.
Yeah, but
It's really good. The ending is pretty phenomenal. Of course, you've read the book, so you know how it ends. And
if it's the same.
I'm assuming it is, because it seems very Stephen King. It's well acted, well produced. James Franco does a really good job in it. And I'm normally not a big James Franco fan. I'm all right with him if he's being serious, if he's not being himself. But just the story is so fantastic.
It's kind of strange. I'm kind of like almost Jim Carrey in a way. It's like I think I like him better when he's being serious than when he's being funny.
I absolutely do. Yeah. It's just so well. I'm of two minds of wanting to read the book because it's so big. But now knowing what happens in it, I'm like, okay, I can see why it's so big, and it makes me want to read it.
It's a good book. You, of all people, would really, really appreciate it being a time travel nut. So,
I just am floored by the way it ends. At least, almost ends. The mid ending, I suppose you could call it, is just wow, incredible. Then I started Iron Fist. Finally, it's okay so far. I'm only like 2 episodes in. It's a different flavor than the other Netflix shows.
Well, I think if you like it so far, I think it'll get better for you too.
It's slow, yeah. I mean, he just got the Iron Fist back, so it's kind of like, It's been, to some extent, it feels like Arrow, but Arrow did it better. Because it's, him coming back from being away for so long. But I'm hoping to plow through the rest of the season.
Except for Oliver Queen was only gone for 5 years. He's been gone for
15.
Yeah.
It's an interesting approach to how to do him coming back home, and I'm intrigued. I'm not turned off of it, so I'm going to keep watching.
I liked it. It's the weakest of the Marvel series on Netflix, but it was good.
It's got such a different tone so far already, and not just storytelling, but visually has a different tone. Like
it's brighter.
Yeah, it definitely is. And even like the tone between, even though visually Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, and Daredevil were all different, they felt like they were all part of the same universe. This one feels almost more like it's a part of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, it doesn't feel as street level, I think, as the other.
Yeah. When you're dealing with corporate stuff, too, it makes it a little less street level in general. But we'll see where it goes.
Maybe I should start with that one.
So far, I have not noticed like any references to anything. I had noticed
there will be, so don't start with Iron Fist. You've got to at least see Daredevil season 2, I think.
I guess
I can't do that until I see Daredevil season 1.
Right,
I guess there has been one reference so far to other Netflix properties, but only one reference to the bigger MCU universe that I've noticed.
Jerry shows up eventually too, Jerry Hogarth. So you need to be introduced to her,
and
Jessica
Claire
Jones, and Claire shows up. You need to be introduced to her, and pretty much everything.
So I guess I'll have to
the
start.
Hand and
I got to start at the beginning.
And Iron Fist almost leads right into Defenders. So in fact, you have to watch all of them to watch Defenders. Trust me.
Well, that one I knew. I knew that. People have asked me. So if you start, no. Just no.
Just no. So there was a reference to an incident from the psychiatrist. You know what I'm talking about in like season 2, episode 2. Is that talking about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
No.
Okay, because he was talking about the incident and how everybody thinks they have powers now. I wonder if that was talking about the Inhumans. From
Well,
Agents of
now that you
S.H.I.E.L.D..
say that, I've forgotten that's what that was.
Well,
We
It
got
could
a
have
Kyle
been-
MacLachlan reference?
That could have been
I think so.
That could have been a.
I can't think of any other.
Wasn't he
Sky's dad.
this guy's dead?
Well, yeah, but that he was like
He was the vet, though.
he was like a
psychiatrist.
tiny minute. And his abilities weren't even from that. He's talking about the Terrigens incident.
Yeah.
Oh, you're
Well,
talking...
That. The
Maze.
the fish oil.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're talking
Yeah.
about the whole thing, the
Right.
whole
Whole
Terrigen
thing.
Okay.
incident, not just
Well,
the individuals.
with the psychiatrist.
Oh,
that
no.
was
This is
definitively-
no,
a
that-
psychiatrist
Oh,
on
okay.
the show is saying.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were referencing that person. Never mind.
I didn't catch that. I'm as much Marvel stuff as I like podcasts and stuff that I read. I have never seen anybody say that. So maybe you
I just
caught
can't
something
think of
that
any
nobody else has.
incident that would give other people powers. That's the only thing I can think
Well,
because that's what he referenced was
immediately I thought because every time they say the incident, they're talking about the New York, the attack on New York by the
Right.
Chicardi.
right.
So
Just the way he worded it
think
made it
that
sound like ever
what-
since the incident, people keep thinking they have powers when they don't.
right,
Something like that.
So,
So
maybe
that
that's
could be
why.
could have been people like Luke Cage or people like
Right,
Spider-Man who are trying to be out there being superheroes and can't.
could be.
I don't know.
I think that's the way. Now that you say that, I think that's the way I took it. That ever since the incident, meaning the attack on New York, everybody is out there
Is trying to be a hero.
Trying to be a hero. Yeah,
Okay.
that's the way I took it.
Did you do anything else, Glenn, besides be sick?
Nope.
No.
Not really. Nope.
Well, let's move on to news. There is none.
Doctor Who is still not on.
The long wait till Christmas continues.
The Wilderness Weeks.
And
I have the power to cut that now. So every time you use wilderness as a reference to anything, it will be cut from the show.
unless it's the actual
Unless
wilderness.
it's the actual wilderness years. And I may cut those if you don't watch it.
And feedback this week is Chris.
Wilderness just to give you something to cut until I get pulled up.
Wilderness moments of the podcast.
Let's see. Yes, this is the right one. Okay. Chris writes, "Hi guys. It's hard to believe that a whole year has gone by and that it's already time for another TopCon. I am planning to attend again this year and hopefully I'll get a chance to see you guys there at some point. I have to say though, I'm rather disappointed to learn there isn't going to be a Doctor Who specific panel this year. In fact, this year's event seems largely void of any actual sci-fi content altogether. Don't get me wrong, I'm looking forward to seeing Deep Roy, who I might add is the only actor, to my knowledge, to appear in Star Wars, Star Trek, and Doctor Who, which is totally awesome.
Plus
However-
Flash Gordon.
And Flash Gordon, which, that counts for like 10. However, the rest of the guest lineup doesn't appeal to me at all. Seriously? Power Rangers? And who in the world thought inviting former pro wrestler was a good idea? What is this, the Swiffy channel? That's a kind of a thing now, Chris. You just gotta deal with it.
Yeah, it's all the conventions.
Seriously, though, looking at the schedule, there doesn't appear to be much happening on Saturday that I'm all that interested in seeing, and unfortunately, I also have to work that afternoon. So I think I may just skip Saturday this year and go to the next day instead, especially given that Deep Roy's panel is not until 1 p.m. on Sunday. Alright, gotta cut this off and get to bed. Keep up the great work, and as I said before, hopefully I'll get a chance to see you guys next weekend. Sincerely, Chris, formerly of Eskridge, now in Auburn."
Thanks, Chris.
Thank
Hopefully
you, Chris.
we'll get to bump into you.
It's
And-
been about a year, hasn't it?
Yes, I think it has.
As you mentioned, there is not much in the way of an official Doctor Who presence at TopCon this year, and so we're kind of we're going to go to TopCon, but we're not going to, at least as far as we know, have an official presence at the con this year. So if you see us, we'll just be out running around and having a good time. Should be kind of nice not to work con for a change.
Yeah.
And if you're in the area and haven't got your tickets yet, they are still available.
And you can, of course, get them at the door if you don't get them in advance.
Yes, you can.
And of course, you can also send us feedback by going to our website, travelingthevortex.com, and fill out the Send Us Feedback tab, or send it directly to feedback@travelingthevortex.com. Let's move on to our review. The Dalek Contract. The Doctor and Romana find themselves in the Proxima system, where enigmatic conglomerate CEO Cuthbert has been conducting his infamous experiments. An experiment which might accidentally rip the universe apart. Meanwhile, living conditions on Proxima Major have become harsh and hostile. Climate change has turned the landscape into a freezing wasteland, and an alien power has condemned much of the population to life inside internment camps. For those still clinging to their freedom, the struggle for survival is now beyond desperate, and outsiders such as the Doctor and Romana are only seen as a threat. What is Cuthbert really up to in the Proxima system, and just how does he expect the dreaded Daleks to fit into his plans?
Bum, bum, bum.
This was enjoyable. It felt like a really long time since we had, started the season off. So I had to kind of rack my brain a little bit to remember where we left off with Cuthbert. But I thoroughly enjoyed the ride going through everything with Proxima, and then up to the space platform with the Daleks, and the two stories really worked well as one cohesive story. A nice big 4-part Fourth Doctor era story.
It had Daleks, it had the Fourth Doctor, and it had David Warner, and so I have nothing bad to say about this story whatsoever.
And K9 got to have some really awesome action sequences.
Oh, and it also wasn't of the Daleks. It was the Dalek Contract.
That's true.
And the final phase. So the nice thing was it wasn't Contract of the Daleks. So there was that as well.
Well, let's talk about K9 and his upgrades. Which started as a cute little joke.
Yeah.
And suddenly became a K9's going up against Daleks.
You have stealth mode? Why have you not activated this? No one has asked.
That's the great thing, is because through the whole first part of this, you're hearing the servos go wee as he's rolling around. And then he activates stealth mode. You've had stealth mode? Nobody's ever asked me to activate.
And obviously he decided to turn it back off after the story.
Yeah, because...
Well, it's probably a power use thing.
Yeah.
Once his power depleted...
That was the other thing that I had hoped they would have at least said at the end of it, is that, he's going to turn it off now because it draws so much power. I thought that would be a great way to work back into the fact that we get back into the television stories and he's got it again.
So much win in this. Just across the board, it was well done. And yeah, I was kind of like you. The LAN, and I had to stop and go, which one was the LAN? Oh yeah, that was the David Warner story that I was vaguely disappointed in for being a David Warner story. It was okay, but it wasn't as much as I wanted it to be. This one was everything I wanted that one to be. And I love the fact that it's not done yet. Of course, that's technically getting ahead of myself and talking about the next one, but
yeah. Well, the cool thing,
I think we can talk about the entire thing
we kind of
as a
have
whole,
to,
because it is such one big story.
Very much like, what was it, a couple of weeks we reviewed something that we felt, it was the Morbius 2-part.
Yeah.
It felt like really is just one big narrative.
It's not like the first LAN 2-parter where
there were two distinct stories going on there with linking context. But yeah, this one goes right into the other one. I don't think this story was genius by any means, and it certainly doesn't rank up there as one of my favorites, even though it has Daleks, the Fourth Doctor, and David Warner in it.
And your favorite version of Romana.
Yes, absolutely. And so I think that I like it. Obviously, it's the nostalgia and the boy in me that likes those parts, but it's a fun story. It's Tom in his element. It's Mary Tam in her element. It's David Warner in his element, and then throw in Toby Haydock as Mr. Doric. I
didn't even realize that's who that was.
Quite enjoyed him, because while he was in the first two stories that we had with David Warner with Cuthbert before, there wasn't a lot. He was kind of just a background character. He was kind of the henchman, or not even a henchman, but like the side guy. And this one he had a lot more to do, and so I quite enjoyed it a lot more. it's a fun story, and it's maybe a little predictable, but I think the end with this whole causal loop walking paradox issue, which obviously we'll hopefully address again more later if Cuthbert shows back up, but the idea that Cuthbert has to go through this dimensional portal because this is kind of, at least the impression I got, is what has set up everything that he's done with the corporation in the past.
Yeah.
And that this has to sort of happen. I thought that was a neat twist at the end because they were being very coy with him being tight-lipped and not telling the doctor, I can't tell you, or it wasn't even say he couldn't tell him, he just never did. He would always get tight-lipped every time somebody asked him, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Why are you trying to go through here?
I like the fact that the doctor then at the end is just, I assume this is why. I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
It definitely builds upon the idea of the mystery with Cuthbert. And so now that we've had kind of sort of disappointing Act 1 and then a fairly strong Act 2, I'm hoping that we get a really great resolution, which I have a theory on. And I'm not sure that I want to say anything about it for risk of spoiling anybody in case I do happen to be right. So I'll leave it up to you guys. Do you want to hear the theory or not?
Well, let me start by saying, I know maybe this would show your cards too much. You don't suspect this is going to pick back up in the third series, the first part of the third series, right?
I don't. Well, since we're going back to Leela in the start of the third series, but this is also the only season we got with Romana.
Yeah, this is the only season. Well, with Mary
Romana
Tam.
1.
Yeah, with Mary Tam as Romana. Well, yeah, Romana 1. So that's why I think that they're holding on to this because there's like 6 or 7 seasons already of Fourth Doctor stories. So I mean, it could happen anytime in the next 3 or 4 series. But I got the impression that this was kind of it. They're done with this story for now, and they kind of left it so they could do something more with it if they wanted. Mm-hmm. But it also kind of answers itself in the sense that it doesn't answer itself, meaning he's this paradox. There's this paradoxical outcome of this, but it doesn't. I mean, it resolves because he does go through, right? And so that's what ultimately sets up everything that happens.
The bootstrap.
Yeah, it's kind of.
I suppose it's possible we may never get a resolution. It may,
and I think that's why they left it this way. I didn't feel like this was the second act of a third part. This felt like we've concluded this. So that, we could revisit Cuthbert later and answer this question if we decide to, but I never got the impression that it was this will pick back up later and you'll find out why this was all that. It was almost one of those left as a mystery type stories for me.
I felt the same way.
Well, then, do you want my theory?
Absolutely.
The music design specifically in this
it was very Fourth Doctor.
Was very Fourth Doctor, but very specifically, very Time Lord. We had the pipe organ, which had almost kind of been reserved for episodes like Invasion of Time and Deadly Assassin and the Five Doctors, Rassilon's Horn, and anytime they taught Gallifrey, anytime they taught Time Lords in the old classic series, it was always organ music, and there was a lot of that running through that. And the fact that Cuthbert has some sort of elemental time travel, time paradox, time something makes me wonder if he's not in some way, shape, or form
particles
a renegade Time Lord.
Oh, shoot, I forgot that I had. Okay, I can't say anything more.
You've read ahead.
I had gone to the wiki to remind myself of the Sands of Time stuff and the Wormery stuff that he'd done before, and read something that tipped me off on who Cuthbert is, and so I assume we will be dealing with this in the future.
Okay.
And I can say your theory is halfway there.
Okay. Rock on. I'll take half.
Halfway there.
I'm glad you mentioned the music because I can't remember the previous Fourth Doctor stories if I noticed this or if I'm just becoming more attuned with the production values of Big Finish, but they were spot on for a Fourth Doctor story.
Yeah,
between
really
the music, the sound effects, absolutely everything. Even the
tone and feel of this story.
Yeah, like the planet.
Which that's down to Nicholas Briggs wrote this one.
Yeah, the planet and the characters on Proxima Major, all of that felt very Fourth Doctor. More so than I think any previous Fourth Doctor story has, for me at least.
Which makes me wonder if because Nicholas Briggs wrote this, and
directed it.
Yeah, and he tried so hard for so many years to get Tom on board. It makes me wonder if that's his doctor. I mean, he's of that right age. That
it would make
have
sense.
been a young child watching these stories, watching Tom's stories. And so it makes me wonder if because he's so in tune with that being his doctor, that he knows how to get these stories right. And he does in this two-parter.
It's very possible. Tom really felt of all of the. I mean, we've listened to 2 seasons worth now of Tom, and kind of flashing back to the early one with Nerva, and how he didn't quite seem to be in his element. He was good, but he wasn't quite. This one very much felt like Tom. In his element,
I would agree.
Me.
I think I felt that Destination Nerva was very much in line with Tom. It was Renaissance Man is the one that I felt was a bit off, which I think is the one they recorded first.
I think you're right. They were recorded slightly out of sequence,
but yeah, I felt Destination Nerva felt more Fourth Doctor era than even Renaissance Man. But in that same vein, yes, I agree. I feel like it feels like Tom has finally refound his footing by this time. This entire season, I felt, was a lot more in line with, but these two particularly feel like he's really found his stride.
Yeah, absolutely.
Refound his stride.
The fact that the end, they wipe out all of these Daleks, had me conflicted in how I felt about it. On the one hand, it felt slightly out of character, coming because the last time he would have, if I have my timeline correct, the last time he would have encountered the Daleks would have been Genesis, right?
Yes, because he doesn't encounter them again until Destiny.
Which is after this, obviously.
No, there was the Leela one. He encountered...
Oh, there was in the audio series.
Oh, okay.
He did encounter him again, yes.
Power of?
No, not Power of the Daleks. That's a second.
That's a second. Energy of the Daleks? Was that the name of that one?
That sounds more familiar, yeah.
One of the ones at the end of Leela's season, they encountered the Daleks.
So last season?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, because she comes back too, so yeah. But TV show wise, yes, it would have been Genesis.
Well, but I'm just trying to think of his chronology from everything I know.
Let's see. There was Destination Nerva, Renaissance Man, Wrath of the Iceni, Energy of the Daleks. You're right. Yep. And it was another Nicholas Briggs.
So I guess not remembering Energy of the Daleks, obviously, at all.
It wasn't a very good story, I don't think. I don't think we liked it much.
It felt a little
Glenn did.
conflicting that...
Other than it was another the Daleks. I mean.
it was a little conflicting in that Genesis aspect of it. Of part of me thinks, okay, well, because he couldn't go through with it in Genesis, now he's okay with just wiping them all out, or is it Genesis such a unique situation because it's the origin of them?
Here's that I said. You're hitting the nail on the head there, because of the infancy of the situation of the Daleks at that point. I think that genocide felt wrong at that point. Also,
and this technically
he decides
isn't genocide.
It's only $5,000. It's not like it's all of them.
Right.
Yeah.
And he decides not to do it, and he also has another confrontation with Davros there at the end after making that decision not to do it. And that may have in turn changed his mind. But you're right. This is more of, instead of winning the war, it's winning this battle.
Yeah.
And I think that's
and
the
that's
situation.
And that's where I kind of came down on. But as I listened to it, I was kind of like, well, is that really what? Okay, yeah, I think it would be.
But it's genocide versus, just destroying
a
platoon or a battalion.
Yeah.
I was okay with it. It seems a little Deus Ex Machina. It
was a little too simple of switch the thingy and then kill everybody.
Yeah, because they're all dead now. Oh, well, all right.
But when you have that many Daleks and the tension of them marching towards that gateway was fantastic. Of them burning through every single bulkhead to get there. Yeah, there really wasn't any other way they could solve that issue.
That was an intense scene, too.
Yeah.
I did like K9's way of slowing them down, though, by shooting them through the ceiling and causing the liquid to come down on top of them.
K9.
At the very least, to slow them.
Let's just talk about K9. Let's just talk about how awesome K9 was.
Always.
Across the board, in every scene. He was great. Because he did all the stuff. All those things that everybody complained about, K9 is the new Swiss Army knife of Doctor Who. Yes, he is. And bully, because I want more of this.
Yes.
I want stealth K9. I want K9 in the snow. I want K9 blowing up Daleks. Like, hey, this is no big deal.
Where there is the K9 Omega movie coming, so he might.
Oh yeah, maybe
Or he
that'll-
can fly.
Maybe that'll be a thing. But
Maybe you'll like when we go back and review the CBBC series of K9. Maybe you'll like all the upgrades and.
I probably
things
will.
that he's
I'll
got.
probably be like, K9's back, and you guys be like, no.
And Keith will be, that's not my K9.
That's not my canine.
He just, this is those Nicholas Briggs as a writer, those fan moments. What would you like to see? I'd like to see K9 take on a Dalek. Yeah, okay, cool. And so we got that.
Yeah.
And it feels very much in a way that's kind of what we're getting throughout these kinds of series. Because it's like, well, Leela never got a Dalek story. Okay, let's give her one. Well, Romana never got a story. Okay, let's give her. I mean, just Romana one. And then if you heard the stinger for the next season, it's like, oh, Leela never got Sontarans. Okay, let's give her one.
Yeah.
Well, she does, actually. She gets Invasion of Time.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Her farewell story.
Her farewell story, as a matter of fact. I just couldn't have been happier, really, quite honestly. It tickled me. I really enjoyed this, and I enjoyed K9, and I enjoyed all the supporting characters, and David Warner. I love how he's angry all the time at everything.
I just wish he was in it more.
Really? Well,
Yeah, especially like the first part. He was in the second part a decent amount, but the first part felt like he could have been in a little bit more.
It makes me want to go and really take a listen to the
yes,
the
absolutely.
Unbound. Have you
Yes,
already?
no, but yes, please.
Yeah, it really makes me want to just go ahead and skip to those and go, okay, David Warner.
As the Doctor, yes.
I love David Warner so much, but his relationship with the Doctor and how the Doctor's like Cuthbert,
And the fact that he constantly mispronounces Romana's name,
Ramona,
and she calls him out on it.
and then
Every single time.
and then he does it once. He gets it.
Ramona.
He gets it right
Gets it right
once,
once.
Romana, and then he goes back to being condescending, Ramona.
Which is obvious he's doing it on purpose.
Yep. Yeah. I just so much win across the board in this.
And I really like Chidak.
Which
So
one?
he was the main person from Proxima.
Gotcha, yes.
So part of me sees a opportunity for a spin-off of the Doctor and Chidak. We knowing how the Doctor controls the TARDIS so well, when they disappear and reappear later. I mean, there could be a whole adventure somewhere in there of just the two of them, because they had such good chemistry too.
Everything about this was fantastic. It really, really was good. I mean, I agree. It's a standard story. I mean, it's got Daleks, and then we blow them all up, and it's a little
It's the execution.
anticlimactic almost. But it's
The
like,
execution overshines the story, in my opinion.
yeah, that's a good way of looking at it.
Did you recognize the voice of Tullivan? It was John Leeson as well.
Really?
Yeah, he got to do a double bill in this.
Well, lucky him.
Yeah.
Didn't sound anything like K9.
I think that was purposeful.
From the man that came in second place in a K9 sound-alike contest. Which is still the greatest news story, I think, in the history of Doctor Who.
Yeah. Anything else on this story?
I just had fun with it. It was
Yeah,
it was a callback to my younger days, and I think that's what I just enjoyed so much about it, is it really felt in line with the Fourth Doctor's era.
One other thing I really liked about it was the Romana realization. The fact that when Romana thinks the Doctor has died, and she's like, that her realization of her, I've actually kind of grown to like this doofus.
Yeah.
That was a great character moment.
It was really great, and it
was
really
great
helped
for her.
make that bridge between the end of the Heat of Time season and Romana 2. It really helped that in my mind, because I always thought that was a bit of a I can guess they had more adventures and maybe she decided to stick around, but it always felt kind of a sharp change of tone for the character. And this helps really smooth that gap a little bit.
Yeah.
Is there any belief to the Black Guardian lurking out there somewhere? As often as we've turned the randomizer off, and
at this point,
it's kind of like, just, I'll worry about that when tomorrow comes. It's just kind of like, okay.
Yeah, that's the Doctor for you, though.
Yeah.
And
I think I see a consequence coming of him turning the randomizer off, but that's because of foreknowledge that I know now reading the stupid Cuthbert thing.
Oh.
So, seriously? Dude, you're not allowed to read ahead anymore.
It was a total accident. Like I say, I went to the wiki page. I was like, I got to remind myself of Sands of Time. And so I just typed in Cuthbert, and I went, and of course the first line describes who Cuthbert is, and I went, oh, I didn't want to know that.
Especially if his time is, if his life is a loop of some extent. I mean, that's hard to avoid the spoilers if you're trying to look back at just a certain section.
Well, I didn't know that as I was listening to it.
Well,
that was coming either, because I thought, and I wanted to remind myself of who Cuthbert was. And usually you can go to the wiki and you can read so much, and then you stop when you get to where they're talking about what you're talking about.
Cuthbert's
this gave a summary of Cuthbert first, and I went, oh, I didn't want to know that.
Now I'm trying not to go to wiki.
I did.
Did you really?
I didn't read his entry. I just read his appearances.
This is what I should have done.
I just went to see.
I realize that now, Keith. Thank you. Thank you for pointing out my idiocy.
I didn't click on the. Oh, I did click on the character, but I didn't read it. I just went to character appearances.
Yeah.
So I know when he's showing up next, but that's about it.
I didn't read it.
Of the three of us, I think I'm the least minding of spoilers, though. So
that's true.
Of the three of us, you are the one that is probably best prepared to deal with them in regards to Doctor Who.
True.
Oh, I mean, really, because of course, reading a certain book that we're getting ready to review, there's not going to be much left of that story. There really isn't. Yeah, I'll talk about it when we get to it. I'm not talking about the book. I'm just talking about
some other story.
There's a thing coming, and it's like, yeah, why do I bother? Just never mind.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I got you now.
I said he's going to watch it, and be like,
I knew all this.
Oh,
it's going to be so underwhelming now. It's
so underwhelming.
I knew all this. I had kind of deduced all of this from everything else that you've had me do.
Yeah, I don't think I even learned anything new from that book.
Yeah, you already knew.
Yeah.
Well,
it just served as a reminder to Shaun that you've already been spoiled on that.
I hope you learned your lesson, mister. I'll teach you to get on the internet and read things.
I even avoided the internet on that story.
As we hand him a book to review, as I give it to him for his birthday, and he says, "Oh, good, that's the book of the book club book of the month. I'll do that." I literally wrapped up the story in a nice little package with a bow and gave it to him.
Might as well just gave me the DVD.
Oh, bother.
Could have just given him a copy of River's Diary. Why does it say spoilers on the outside? Well, you'll find out.
Okay, what do we got coming up on this schedule?
Next week on the schedule, we will be for Friday night.
I'm going to give that back. I'm going to give it back to you to do, Shaun, because he doesn't say schedule right.
Schedule?
Yeah, he doesn't say schedule right at all.
Schedule?
Coming up next week on the schedule for Friday Night Who, we will be finishing the final 3 parts of Talons of Wen Chiang, which I gotta say, I enjoyed the first 3 parts immensely this time through. And it's not been one of my favorite stories. It's not been I don't understand fandom. We've talked about this. I don't understand fandom's obsession with it. I don't understand why it's regarded as a thing. It's just kind of there for me. I had an absolute blast watching parts 1 through 3, and I don't know if it's because I was able to take Jago and Lightfoot and enjoy them, or just the kind of absurdity of it, or I don't know. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. I also looked up Mr. John Bennett, who plays Li Se Cheng, and he's listed as known for his blah, 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 and he's listed in The Fifth Element as priest. Well, of course, there were only like 20 priests in this movie. I know he's not Ian Holm, but and then it dawned on me. He's the one at the beginning of the movie. The bald head and the gray beard, who talks to the Maochian and the thing.
Oh, yeah.
I will.
Okay.
Oh my God, that's him. So.
Now I need to go rewatch The Fifth Element.
Like you need an excuse to rewatch The Fifth Element.
That's one Sarah's never seen.
What?
I know.
I don't think Holly's ever seen it either.
What?
But I'm also not pushing her to see it because I'm not a fan of it. It was all right. It just wasn't great.
Oh, you're not allowed to talk anymore. Just no, Glenn. No. Anyway, so we'll be finishing up Talons next week, or this week, for Friday Night Who. And then the following podcast, we will be discussing TopCon and our adventures there. And the star of Talons. Yes, he is the star of Talons. Deep Roy, who will be here in our fair city at that convention. And then we've also added to the schedule our
review of our book review.
Goodreads. Brain seized up. I couldn't. The word was there, but I couldn't grab it. Our Goodreads book club is doing. Did for August. It was right. August.
Yeah. Hey Keith, will you do the schedule from here on out?
You didn't say it right.
I know, because I'm giving it back to Keith.
For August, the Goodreads Book of the Month Club did
A Brief History of
the Time Lords. And so we will be adding our reviews of that book to the schedule on next week's cast, which is not listed online currently. But there's that. Also, a note that I will need to change the schedule. The schedule is going to be full of changes probably by the time it's all said and done, because we realized that because I like to cut and paste materials, I duplicated a couple of numbers. And so our big Epiversary celebration of number 350 is not happening on 350. It's technically 351, and I have to go back and fix it.
It's going to come sooner than
I have to
originally
configure
posted.
a few things. So we're going to flip a few things around if you're following along.
I thought you'd already done that on the schedule.
No,
not yet. Oh.
I talked about doing it. I said I was going to do it. I didn't do it.
You fixed it on our inner office schedule then?
Yes.
Okay, that's what you meant.
Behind the scenes, I did it.
Right.
Publicly, I have
Maybe
not.
Instead of going back and fixing that post, maybe you should just make a whole new post.
That's probably not a bad idea.
Okay. You could repost the Friday Night Who video too. That'd be all right.
Especially since we know what's coming up.
Right.
In inner office, we know what's coming up beyond Time Eddie now, too. So.
Yeah. So you can add to it. Next, beyond
More work for Shaun.
More work for Shaun. Yeah, I'll get right on that. Okay.
And just to look ahead beyond that, unless that week's changing, which I don't think. Fort of Doomsday for Friday Night Who, and then for episode 347, Big Finish 221, The Starmen, as well as Titan Comics 10th Doctor Season 3, Issues 1 through 5.
And Starman must be a 5th Doctor then, since we're doing Fort of Doomsday, or did you coordinate it that way?
It is a 5th Doctor one.
Did I say 4th? 5th Doctor. I said 5th.
You said
5th.
Okay. I don't know. My brain's all scrambled now. Yeah,
it is, in fact, a 5th Doctor story.
I kind of wondered, since you often try to coordinate those a bit. So
way forward in our listening.
You're way forward.
Way forward.
We're going to the future.
And the past.
Anything else?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, if you'd like to become a patron of the podcast, you can go to travelingthevortex.com, and on the right-hand side of the page, you will see a button to support us on Patreon. And any amount is welcome, of course. 100% of those donations go right back into this podcast. Also, there are links to other retail sites there. A portion of those proceeds also go into this show. And if you can purchase some podcast merchandise from our Traveling the Vortex merchandise store. That helps as well. And you can find a link from all of that, to all of that on our website, travelingthevortex.com. I think that's it. Anything else this week, fellows?
I don't believe so.
I don't think so.
All right, that's going to do it for this week. Until next week, I'm Glenn.
I'm Shaun.
No, I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Good night, everybody.
Be seeing you.
Thanks for listening.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.